Hello everybody and welcome back. And we're all in the Duke's League Inn, which is the inn for Malin, Carrick and Donard. And we're standing around a rather bruised and bloodied Malin and Liz, who got jumped in an alleyway and threatened by the very same people who paid Liz and Sylvia some cash. And there seems to be some kind of uniform these people wear, like a purple hood. It's clear that things are going down in this city and we ourselves aren't that safe, and it doesn't look like the Night's Watch or the constabulary really have moved anything on. So we've decided to go back to where it all began, the Goodwife Cellar, just so we can investigate a bit more of how on earth somebody got into the Vorloi house and murdered Lucia. As we go downstairs, all of a sudden we hear gossip. The name of Lucia is being mentioned in the room. The innkeeper is talking to the barmaid, his daughter, and they're talking about how awful it is that that poor young woman got murdered. We hear a name called Simeon Tornescu. Liz, who is good at going up to people and talking, just casually goes up to the barmaid, who is roughly the same age, and says, "Oh yes, we kind of heard a woman got murdered. Do you think we're safe in this city?" And the barmaid says, "Oh yes, it's got nothing to do with you, don't worry." The barmaid and her father, the innkeeper, start telling us all about how the fact that some wealthy knob called Simeon Tornescu proposed marriage to Lucia Vorloi in a very public place. He did it at the waterfront here at the harbour, and she turned him down in front of everybody, and it was extremely humiliating. And that was probably about 2 weeks ago, and everybody has now decided that this is a crime of passion. And Simeon Tornescu has decided, in the heat of shame and humiliation and thwarted love, kill Lucia Vorloi. Such crimes do happen. And we asked the barman, "How did you get this idea?" And the response from him is, "Everybody's talking about it." Okay, so it looks like something is happening after all. But we're going to make our way up the main street to this little bit here, which is the Goodwife Vanito's house. We tell her that we'd like to help her again with her cellar. Now, of course, she loves the attention and she loves having people take an interest in her problems, even if the problems don't exist. So she's more than happy to have some big strong help clear out her cellar. And even though there hasn't been any noises, as soon as we appear and tell her we think there might be more danger, she has heard more noises. She's just got this sort of positive feedback loop where if you encourage her traumas, she will just actively agree with you. So we say, "Yes, we're not quite certain that your cellar is safe." And she said, "Oh yes, I agree. I think I heard noises too." She even says herself, "Oh, have you heard that the murder has been solved? That poor Vorloi girl, the niece of the Baron. It was apparently her lover who killed her. Shocking altogether." That isn't going to put us off our own investigation. If it was this Simeon Tornescu, he still had to get into the Vorloi house through a trapdoor. So we're back in this cellar here, and we went north. We didn't find anything. So we're going to go southward. This area here is described as just having grain and rats. And we come down here, and we've got a left and right. We'll do a roll. 1 to 3 left, 4 to 6 right. And it is indeed, we go right. We come to another junction. It's clear that this goes back the way we came, but of course there may be some more cellars off here. We'll make a decision to go north or south. If we go north, we're going to double back when we realise this is just a narrow passage. So as a formality, 1 to 3 is north. We go north for a bit, realise this is looking futile. We go south, and we're in another room here. We haven't been particularly stealthy, and we're holding a lamp. In the corner of this room is another ladder with another trapdoor. We come into the room, and at the same time, this trapdoor is thrown open, and somebody starts to climb down the ladder. Now, as soon as they get 3/4 down the ladder and their head is able to look under the trapdoor, they see us. Now let's read for a bit. Along the south wall of this cellar is a large pile of dirt. Near the open tunnel mouth is a small wheelbarrow. It is loaded with shovels and picks. Wooden beams are piled neatly into the centre of the room. In the southeast corner is a ladder leading up to a trapdoor in the ceiling. There's a scraping of wood, a ray of light shines into the room, and someone is opening the trapdoor. A hooded man comes down the ladder. He is not expecting anyone, but if he notices the characters in plain sight, that's us, he flees. And there's a little description that if we had been a bit more stealthy, we could have observed him taking a shovel and going all the way back up to the north. Well, he flees up that ladder, and we have no option but again to run after him. We do, and we end up in another house. The house is here. We don't know that yet, we're still inside it. And it isn't a fine house like the Vorloi house, but it isn't a slum. This is Bricktop. This is a nice area. The front door of the house is thrown open, and whoever was on that ladder has got a good head start on us. We run out the front door and into the street, and we see nobody. But we go back into the house and we have a look around, and what we find on a table is a hood, one of the many hoods that we've seen worn by the people who have attacked us. And the hood has some red hairs attached to it. Carrick picks off a red hair and goes, "Tisk, tisk, never trust a ginger." And we also find a dagger with some blood, and lo and behold, attached to the dried blood is another red hair. So the question Sylvia asks is, I wonder if this Simeon Tornescu has red hair. We also find a desk and a near empty bottle containing a thick brownish, sweet, strong wine. There is no label on the bottle, but near the top is the remains of a wax seal. The seal still clearly bears the imprint of the Troiskin estates. Anyone in the city can identify the seal. And all the wines from there are sold to a few waterfront inns. Okay, so that is the clues that we have. Dagger with blood and red hair, with a hood with some red hair, and a bottle of wine which can be bought freely within the city. We're going to go back to the guardhouse, which is here. It's daytime, so the constabulary are walking the streets. There's a couple hanging outside, so we tell them what went on, and they escort us back to this house here. Now they know this area, they walk the streets, and they tell us this house is owned by a guy called Turano, and Turano is a local butcher, and he rents this house out to people coming and going, and the constabulary say, "We'll take it from here." And we ask, "Do you know Simeon Tornescu?" This officer shrugs, says no. So we ask, wouldn't happen to know then whether he had red hair, and again the officer shrugs. But he takes an interest in the red hairs on the clues. We have to leave the clues with him. That's kind of officially how it works. Well, we haven't really gotten anywhere unless we find Simeon Tornescu, and unless we discover he has red hair. What do we do next? Well, the most obvious thing next is to go round the corner, back to the Vorloi house, and ask the butler, Jeeves, what he thinks of Simeon Tornescu, and can he tell us anything more about Lucia? So we do that. We go back to the Vorloi house. Jeeves the butler is still there. He's wearing a black armband, as are all the staff. This is not a happy house. And we ask him for his time. Can he sit down and help us? It takes him about 2 minutes for him to recognise who we are. He is getting old. Liz draws a finger along some dust on a small table, and she remembers that Jeeves went on about his high standards and how the young staff here are very good. Well, he doesn't seem to be able to see the dust. So we ask him a couple of questions about Lucia and Simeon, and he is aware that Simeon was courting her. We ask, has he seen Simeon? He has. We ask, does he have red hair? And he thinks for a minute, and he can't actually remember. And we ask about Lucia. What kind of young woman was she? Did she have any friends? Would anybody else know more about her and her relationship with Simeon? And Jeeves goes, ah yes, there is. And he directs us to a place in the north end of the city called the Adventurers and Explorers Club. And he doesn't really know what that club is, but he does know that Lucia Vorloi and another Tornescu person Stefano Toronescu both go to that club and they were good friends. So that's a lead. And I'll pause here for a break and we'll find out more about this Adventurers and Explorers Club. When we get back to the inn, Rowan Blackthorne is there. He's getting himself all dressed up for another night on the town. He seems to have a lot of influential friends here. In fact, he says he's going to dinner with 2 well-respected judges and 2 actresses. And it should come as no surprise to us that he is able to direct us to the Adventurers and Explorers Club. It is in an unmarked building. And even in our short journey from here to here, we heard the name Simeon Tornesco mentioned in anger. And it doesn't just seem to be gossip, it has escalated. There are people standing on street corners, mouthing their anger at the Tornescu family and the nobility class in general here on the hill. And it looks like someone is exploiting Lucia's murder to essentially have what you would call a class war. This could destabilise the city if it gets out of hand. It's going to be a bit awkward, all of us tramping all the way to this club to ask this Stefan Tornesco if he's there. Some rather personal questions about Lucia and his cousin Simeon. So it's decided that Liz and Sylvia should do it. The boys themselves are then going to go around the town to see if they can find, well, get a mood on the street to see why people are accusing Simeon Tornesco. So that's what they do, and the party splits up, and Rowan Blackthorne says that he has an idea. He noticed that during the fight where we all got jumped, none of us could carry a ranged weapon and hide it under our cloaks. So he knows a little halfling weaponsmith in the foreign quarter who makes small halfling-sized weapons, and that includes crossbows. So he's going to see if he can acquire at least 3 very small crossbows and give one to Carrick, Sylvia and Liz. That was just a little side note. But the party split up and Liz and Sylvia follow directions to go along the main street, down this little side street here, and into this area where there seems to be what you might call a mews or alleyways, and there's an unmarked building here. It's quite grand, and that's the Adventurers and Explorers Club. And it gets quite a good write-up in the Specularum Threshold magazine. So let's see what they find there. Liz and Sylvia go north along the main Westron Road and turn right at the Church of St. Lucor. They go east for 2 blocks until they come to a courtyard. The Adventurers and Explorers Club is a solid 4-storey building with a large door, but no other remarkable features. It doesn't advertise itself on the outside, as many of its members don't want to draw attention to themselves. They have been given the owner's name, Valerio Iantos, and they repeat this to the large doorman. He goes off down a long hallway and returns with the gentleman in question. Valerio takes a dubious look at the 2 women on his doorstep. "Well, you do look like adventurers," he says in a Traladarian accent, not unlike Liz's own, "and armed as well, which is unusual for the city. I'm intrigued." He bids them enter. "I'll take it from here, Boris," he says to the large doorman. Liz and Sylvia are escorted down a hall. They glance into a fine common room laid out for civilised eating and drinking. A few adventurers are gathered there, talking over their travels in the wilderness. Eventually, they are shown into Valerio's office. They are offered seats. Sylvia says, "We're here on rather delicate, unfortunate business." She explains their discovery of Lucia Vorloi's body. Liz adds her incident in the alley. "We've been told we can trust you," she says. "I'm flattered," says Valerio, "and you can. There are several organisations that behave the way you have described. The largest and most dangerous is called the Veiled Society. Are you familiar with them?" Liz and Sylvia shake their heads. "I'm sure some of them have infiltrated this club. They must have connections with one of the main families in the city. But which one? But why anyone would want to kill poor Lucia, I can't guess." "What was she like?" asks Liz. "Was she an adventurer?" "Oh no," says Valerio with a sad smile. "She was a dreamer, rather withdrawn, quiet. Her uncle, the Baron, is a good friend, so some of the Vorloi are nominal members here. She liked looking at maps and hearing stories from far-off lands. There are stories circulating about Simeon Tornescu, says Sylvia. Valerio laughs. I can't believe it, but his cousin Stefanos is a member here. He should show up soon for early dinner. If you want to wait in the common room, I'll have our cook Magda bring you something to eat and drink. Liz and Sylvia accept this kind offer and wait in the common room. They have a chance to overhear some wild stories of adventurers while they wait for Stefanos Tornescu to enter. Right, while Sylvia and Liz are having an interesting time in the Adventurers Club, the boys are walking through the streets and the public are getting worked up, and there are definitely people who are doing the agitating. And they try to go up to people and ask, is this to do with the murder of Lucia Vorloi, or is this to do with your hatred of the nobility? But they can't really go up to people. It's not a skill that they have. Liz makes it look easy. Donald tries to go up to people. His approach isn't overly friendly. Malin just mumbles, and Carrick is a bit blunt. Things seem to get worse as they go towards the nest, which obviously has the more poor people, and they end up here in a bar called the Flying Hammock. And it's Carrick's idea that, well, the easiest way to get to talk to people is to buy them a drink. So they go into the Flying Hammock, buy a round of drinks, and then just say to the next person standing to them, do you want one? And, well, they start to talk, but then things get rough out here. The mood in the streets, well, I've covered that. Things are getting bad. It is late in the afternoon. Most of the stalls have closed for the day, but many people are still in the market. We can assume there's a small market here. An orator stands on the edge of the central fountain and the crowd gathers around him. The orator shouts, and I tell you, these Tornescu are dangerous. Do they care for you? Do they care for the safety of the common workers? Who declares the taxes? Who steals food from your children's mouths to fatten themselves in luxury? The crowd is getting restless. Several men shout cries of agreement. Men raise their fists, and their voices grow in number. The speaker attracts more and more people, some merely curious, and others in agreement with them. Clatter of horses' hooves make the crowd turn. Ringing the outer edges of the marketplace, well, I've changed the location, are 30 of the Duke's horsemen. The orator and the crowd grow silent. 3 riders slowly bring their mounts towards the centre of the crowd. Suddenly, a hoarse cry erupts from the crowd, and something flashes through the air. The lead rider falls, struck by a rock. And as you can see, this chapter is called Riot. Now, things are going to seriously kick off. Do we get involved? Well, let's see what happens to Liz and Sylvia. They're having a much different time. Stefanos Tornescu comes to the Adventurers Club and he's introduced to Liz and Sylvia, and they talk about Lucia Vorloi and Simeon Tornescu. And for a start, Stefanos assures them that Simeon Tornescu has blonde hair, not red hair. Though it kind of occurs to Sylvia that when they found Lucia's body, there were 2 people. Only one of them needed to have red hair, and that didn't have to be Simeon. And they ask about Lucia, and Stefanos says yes, she was quiet, kind of withdrawn character, very much a dreamer. And he takes them down to the docks. This is where Lucia used to hang out, and she used to look at the ships come and go. And Simeon, his cousin, he says, well, is a bit more pragmatic and dull. And Liz asks, oh, do you think Lucia found him boring? As they walk, here Stefanos says, actually, to tell you the truth, Lucia was not cut out for an adventurer. As much as she had big dreams, if she'd stepped foot outside the city, she'd have been killed. She should have married Simeon and realised that she wasn't as exciting as she liked to think she was. They get to the dockyard, and what they see for the first time, I have to draw it here, is an absolutely massive construction area, huge. It's filled with all the construction equipment you can make from wood, gantries, scaffolding, winches, hoists, and it's just like an anthill of men crawling all over it. And large, well-masoned blocks are being laid into the sea to form what looks like a huge seawall. Stefanos explains what's going on here. The Vorloi family, Lucia's family, are building a new quayside, not just a wooden jetty, but an actual proper massive structure. When I say this is a large construction, there's 2 parallel sea walls being built with an end, once those are done, everything will be filled in with gravel and scree to create a massive platform. This is a huge undertaking. It's going to cost them an absolute fortune, but Stefanos says it will make them a dragon's hoard of gold year after year after year. Why is that? Well, it's because the Vorloi family own the shipping and all the guilds to do with the shipping. But the Radu family own the merchants and the warehouses. So essentially, the Vorloi family have to go through the Radu family to get ships docked, unloaded, and goods taken away. If the Vorloi family can build their own quayside, they can bypass the Radu family, and, well, that fortune they stand to make will be the Radu's losses, and it is a huge bone of contention. And Sylvia asks, is that enough for them to actually want to kill Lucia? And Stefanos shrugs and says, who can tell, the Radu are not the nicest. He also points out, if they wanted to stop the construction, it failed. The construction is still continuing. They just murdered a young woman and caused a lot of grief for nothing. He's undecided, and if they did do it, the Duke of Karamikios would just eradicate the family. So they walk round here, and Stefanos points to the part where Simeon proposed to Chia in public, and she turned him down. Stefanos was there as best man in waiting, and Simeon said, oh, let me take you away from all of this, which was an odd thing to say, and Stefanos thinks he wants to take Lucia away from her daydreaming, but whatever it meant, it didn't work. So that's the kind of afternoon the girls are having. The boys are outside this pub here, the Flying Hammock, and things are really kicking off. There's a large crowd, they've been worked up into a frenzy. Some horse-mounted guards came along and somebody threw a rock at them, and everything kicks off. This turns into a riot. All the people from the nest start throwing things and attacking the guards and the horses, and the guards themselves start swinging their swords. Now there are three things you can do here. You can lead the riot, so we can stay with the rioters, and we can actually gather stones, throw bricks at nearby buildings, and collect wood for fires. If we attempt to impose order on the crowd, in other words, if we side with the guards, thugs will challenge us. And there's quite a long explanation of how to handle this riot if you want to join in, including the stats for the guards and the number of rioters, and the guards will come in waves. The other alternative is that you just run. If you do just run, you can bang on a door and somebody will let you in. Or the third option, which is the one we are going to do, is the orator, the man who's giving the speeches. He runs, and our instinct is to point at him and say, chase him. Right, the orator is in his clothes. Donard and Carrick are in their armour. Malin is wearing normal clothes, so he's the fastest. So as the orator runs, the three guys kind of split up, with Malin at the front chasing this man down some streets. Through here, through here, through here, up through here, round here. Carrick and Donard are puffing behind, trying to keep up in their armour. They see Malin here in this corner, and Malin is pointing down there, here. They catch up with him, and Donard and Carrick run down here and burst into this house here. And what they are in is a 40 foot by 40 foot storeroom. And this is the orator. He bursts in here. 4 armoured guys here who have been sitting around on barrels and crates jump up. This guy doesn't say anything, and he just runs to the corner. But they immediately whip out their weapons as Donard and Carrick arrive in. Right, let's roll for surprise. There is no surprise. Let's roll for initiative. And it's mutual. Right, it's one of these. Okay, they have a cleric, and this cleric is a level 5 cleric. He's got 2 cure light wounds, and he also has a bless and a blight. And a blight is, well, a reversed bless. There is no missiles, spells first. He is going to cast bless on his own team. So they all get +1 to hit and damage. This one goes for Donard. The guys are back in their usual armour classes, even though they're not using their usual weapons. So fighter number 2 on Dockyard misses badly. Fighter number 3 on Carrick misses, and fighter number 4 also misses. These are level 4, 3 and 3, so this guy gets all the benefits of being level 4. So that's their turn. Right, our go. Dockyard, who's using a wooden mallet, which has absolutely no magical bonuses, but he's still on 1d4 plus 3. 17. His Thaco 16. Yes, he hits armor class 2, and he does 6 damage to this guy, who's from 23 to 17. And Carrick is on a little hand axe. Ah, yes, excellent. And his Thaco is 14 with the little hand axe, so he easily hits AC 2, does max damage, and his damage is 1d6 plus 3, 1 for the hand axe and 2 for strength. So he does 9 damage to fighter number 3. He's from 16 to 7. Right, that's round 1. Round 2. And we get initiative. Is Dockyard going to cast a bless? He has a hold person, or is he just going to go for it? He's going to cast bless. So we all get +1 to hidden damage. Well, it's not much of a great bless since there's one person in the party. But it's Carrick's go. And he hits AC 2. He actually hits AC 1 because of the bless. He does 10 damage. He wipes out that character. This one has AC 3 and is wielding a two-handed sword. I should have used the 1d10 for him. Right, that's our go. Their turn. Right, spells first. The cleric is going to cast Blight, which we're allowed to make a saving throw against. So I'm going to do orange for Dockyard, green for Carrick. And Carrick saves against the Blight, so his bless still holds up. The Blight negates the bless, so Dockyard's bless is negated. Right, it's this guy. This is the toughest. It's with a Thaco of 16, actually 15. He hits AC 1. I'm gonna have to double check in Dockyard's armor class. I think it's 0. Yes, his AC is 0. Between his shield +1, his plate mail +1, his ring of protection +1, and a minus dex bonus. So yes, luckily he just misses. And this guy's on Carrick. Oh boy, and he throws a 16, and his Thaco was 19. Ah, he still misses. It's round 3. And they get initiative. Right, what's the cleric going to do now? He's going to cast Cure Light Wounds on this injured guy, who is at 17 out of 23. And he cures another 3 points. He's up to 20. He is going to fight Dockyard. And he hits AC 0, and he does 5 damage. Dockyard's down to 28. And that guy misses Carrick. It's our turn. Dockyard, cursing his little wooden mallet, fumbles with it badly. Carrick's on a hand axe +1. And that's an 11 because of the bless. He hits AC 3. This guy doesn't have a shield because he's on a two-handed sword. That hits, and that does 1d6 plus 4 damage. So he does 5 off him. He's down to 12. I have to say there's been a couple of times in this fight where that bless has made the difference between a hit and a miss. It's certainly doing its work for both parties, and it's round 4. And that's mutual. I'll do them. So this cleric is going to go on to Dockyard. Misses. The fighter misses badly. I rolled the wrong hit dice there, doesn't matter. And that guy misses badly. Dockyard. His Thaco of 16 hits AC 4, he misses. Carrick hits AC 1, hits, does 6 plus 4 damage, is 10. That fighter is down to 2 HP. Round 5. We get initiative again. Right, Carrick's going to try and finish that guy off. Oh, and he does. He has rolled 6s every time, so we lost another fighter. Good. Dockyard. He's going to turn his attention to the cleric. Some cleric on cleric action here. And he misses. There we go. I'll do the cleric. Oh boy. 15 plus 1 for bled. 6. No, that's still a miss. And that's a really bad miss from the fighter. So it's round 6. And it's mutual again. Right. Evil cleric. Misses. Nasty fighter. Misses. Frustrated cleric. Misses. Barbaric dwarf. Misses. Right, so it's round 7. Holy moly. And it's them. Nasty cleric misses. Vicious fighter misses. Dockyard misses. Dwarf misses. Okay. And it. They get initiative. And the cleric hits this time and does 6 damage. Anytime I use the orange dice to roll for the enemy, they hit. And that fighter misses Dockyard. Okay, so it's our go. Finally, Dockyard hits AC2 and does a great 1d4 plus 3 damage is 4 points, so that fighter is down to 16. Carrick had better do something about this cleric. Yes, he does. And he does again. Max 1d6 plus 4 damage. He takes 10 off that cleric. He's down to 6 HP. This is round 9. We get initiative. Right, Carrick, take this cleric out. Yes, he does. Thankfully. Dockyard, whack this guy. This fight has gone on. And he misses. Right, I'm going to do a morale check for this guy. 9 or more. As morale holds up. And he misses. I think this is round 10. And it's mutual again. Right. Okay. I'll do him. Nasty villain. Hits and does 8 damage. Dockyard is down to 14. Carrick misses. Ah, he's been throwing 6s. Like a demon. Dockyard misses. Okay, round 11. And we get initiative. Please end this. Carrick, yes. Plus 4 is 8. That guy's from 16 to 8 HP. And Dockyard hits AC2. Does 4 damage. He's down to 4 HP. Right. Round 12. He gets initiative. I'll do another morale check. And nope, it fails. And he throws down his sword. And this guy comes out of the corner. It's going to be interrogation time, but it's only now that Dockyard and Carrick realise they've lost Malin. Where has he been all this time? Oh dear. Anyway, we'll probably find out next time. I'll see you then.